Today one of the most badass guys I work with was cutting up the plastic part of a 6-pack of pop before throwing it away. I asked him why and he said so the cute little bunnies don't get their little heads caught in it. What's something you've heard someone say that doesn't fit their stereotype? At my first job, many moons ago, our security guy was this huge, bald badass named Dirk. He looked scary as heck. One day we were both in the break room and he told me how his hobby was photography. He asked if I wanted to see some photos. I was a little apprehensive. What could a man like this possibly take photos of? Butterflies. No one ever suspects the butterfly. Sitting at my local internet cafe several years ago, I am playing Diablo 2. I hear the roar of a motorcycle come down the street and cut out in front of the cafe building. In walks this half-giant biker dude, tan as leather, with denim, spikes and a bandana. Anna please. This man could have torn everyone else in the net cafe limb from limb without breaking a sweat. Instead he played Neopets for 45 minutes before checking his email and leaving. Well, I bet his Jetsam was beating the crap out of all other Neopets. A friend of mine is a giant, 6 feet 9, 260 pounds, covered in tattoos from his head to his feet, has a mohawk and several piercings, was rolling around on the floor with a kitten talking to it in a baby voice. Please tell me the kitten was roughly the size of his hand. Went to a family reunion out in Colorado. There were about 100 relatives there and one of my 3rd or 4th cousins was an enormous 6+ built dude with a dark red crew cut. He was a prison guard at a maximum security prison. He was real nice but looked super intimidating. He brought his boyfriend Homer. Homer was a thin flamboyant 5 foot tall Zen man. The broken stereotype for me is that a thin flamboyant Asian man is named Homer. For a Metallica concert in 1999, the S&M one with the orchestra, there was a guy in the orchestra, a bodybuilder type with huge arms and tattoos all over them, playing the harp. If you get my gun toting, camo wearing, mustachioed friend drunky starts talking in great detail about his whittle kitties. It's adorable. That actually sounds like the kind of guy I'd like to date. The small, very shy Indian girl on my dorm floor had her internet shut down because she was running a pTorrent server from her room. Nice girl in my college dorms was running her own P site, would take public nudity pics in the dorms and school and post them up. Was kind of neat to see internet P pictures of places I knew so well. Stairwells I used every day, lounge, etc. She got kicked out of school. Sad. Walking through town one day, see a gang of, for lack of a better description, little shoots, shouting racial abuse at 2 black lads. Out of nowhere, the most terrifying neo-Nazi looking white man strides out of the shadows and up to the gang, backhands one of them, and in the most eloquent Queen's English, begins to berate the little shoots to the point that they're almost in tears. He then nodded at the 2 black guys, and continued about his day. Didn't see the kids after that. I have a roommate who is very religious, kind of shy, always smiling, and a bit naive. She loves drawing gore and monsters like the kind of crap you see on heavy metal albums or on RWTF. Nowadays, it was a bit shocking to say the least. Well, there are quite some gruesome parts in the Bible, so it's not too far off if you'd read it. Once I refed a little kid soccer game and I was doing my best, but some of the kids' parents got pee and starting cussing at me, calling me just terrible names. I was 15 at the time and had never received that much hate. I was on the verge of tears and I consider myself a fairly tough guy. Don't cry much. Add the assistant coach, who was this 18-year with tons of piercings and looking kind of gothish and black, came up to me and just straight up apologized for what happened with the parents. Man, I learned a lot about stereotypes. It was nice. All my experiences with goths have made me believe they're the sweetest people out there. My theory is that they like to dress in intimidating fashion to compensate for their sweetness. A friend of mine in high school was a misfit kind of kid, always drinking and doing drugs, having sex with trashy girls, ditching class, stealing. One time we were talking about parenting, and he said to me, "I honestly can't wait to be a dad." I think raising a child who is half me and half the person I love most in the world will be the most special thing I'll ever experience. His unlikely perspective really makes me excited to be a mom someday. 2. Sounds like my brother. He was constantly in fights, drugs of every flavor and type, loved to bang the nastiest girls, yet always wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. He hit a point when he realized crap wasn't working, cleaned up, met a wonderful girl, had 2 boys and a little girl, and is an awesome stay-at-home dad. Dude has more patience than any parent I've ever met. A few of my friends play D1 football as linemen and are some of the most aggressive and short-tempered people I know. They found a baby squirrel on our campus abandoned by its mom. They all take care of the squirrel, nursing him into healthy adulthood, and they named him Jerry. The best part is half of my university has pictures with him. Jerry is quite the celebrity. My husband's best friend James is SF in the army. The day before his wife's baby shower, he said it's a shame we don't have nice crystalware. Oh my, and that's not really enough time to properly shop for nice crystalware, unless you've got a shop nearby. As a 6'9", broad-shouldered, heavily bearded fellow who looks like an out-of-shape linebacker, I am glad I'm not the only guy whose personality doesn't match his appearance. Damn it, I love bunnies so much. Little sniffy noses and giant clawed hopper feet. HNNNG. Yes, giant clawed hopper feet are adorable. There's these 2 burly bad butt men in my dad's apartment. One is a huge Samoan with facial tattooed. The other wears biker clothes and has all the pissings you'd imagine. Walking past their apartment, you hear corn blasting through and you see the warning Gowd dog sign. This Gowd dog is a tiny French bulldog. They just replaced their purple Jeep with a blue Beetle. They are married. The most polite, sweetest men I've ever met. They brought us baked goods last Christmas. They have a bumper stick that says gummy bears. This is actually pretty standard gay bear behavior. I know about a half dozen couples like this. My town is notorious for having a really rough gang population. So while I'm at a Magic, the Gathering, for those of you who don't know, it's a card game that can be considered kinda nerdy, tournament, this dude shows up. He's wearing gang colors, the backwards hat, the gang affiliated sports team jersey, sagged pants and everything. He spoke like a gangbanger, inarticulate, hard to understand, a lot of slang. He looks like he's going to beat the crap out of me, then shoot me, then frick my body with a wooden stake. Turns out I got paired against him to play a match. We start talking, and he gets way the frick into the game, and starts talking about spellcasting and how he thinks dragons are the coolest fricking things ever. He also had a history of Yu-Gi-Oh obsessions. A few weeks later, I actually saw his name in the highest honor roll for the community college. TLDR. Gangster scares crap out of me. Turns out he's kind of a nerd, the cool kind. Also, I don't mean nerd in a derogatory sense. He's just into nerdy things, and he's actually a pretty cool guy. I love that you explained what Magic, the Gathering is, on Reddit. I have co-worker, who is completely decked out in tattoos and scars, drives a heli, and chain smokes like a mofo. Everyone is kind of intimidated by him because he is huge, and the fact that he is always blast rock and metal from headphones, which I don't mind. I love metal. One day he was leaving work with a couple of plates covered in tinfoil. We asked him what was underneath the foil and he proceeded to show us 3 home-cooked meals he made himself. We asked what he was going to do with them and he told us he was going to pass them out to this group of homeless men who reside underneath a nearby underpass. Danny is a pretty nice guy. The other day, I saw this guy with tattoos on his neck and face, scars to match, generally looking like he came out of prison, get on the subway and pulled out a storm of swords. It made me smile. He's a nice guy. He just paid the iron price for his copy of the book. My roommate is a male who works out all the time and used to be a military guy. He's really muscular and has a buzz cut and can look pretty mean sometimes. I have little parakeets who can be very loud and chirpy. My roommate claims he hates those dang birds and always complains about them. The other day, I caught him while he thought nobody else was home. He was tickling the birds' bellies with his pinky finger while cooing. "Here my favorite little birds, look at you birds. You're so pretty. Yes you are." My history teacher is often described as a teddy bear because he's incredibly nice, never gets angry, and loves fluffy things. He's also one of the best CDP marksmen in the state. What the frick, history teacher, why did you not tell me this? Not really something they said, but more what they do. I work at GameStop, and there's this one really huge badass looking bodybuilder guy that comes in a lot. He pretty much looks like Brick from Borderlands but shorter. The one game he plays the most, World of Warcraft. He's apparently a pretty dedicated player too. And on top of that, he's one of our better customers. Really nice guy. My neighbor was like a dude stepping out of an action movie. 6'4", still shorter than me, muscular, black as night, drug dealer. He had some awesome tattoos everywhere, tombstones across his back, etc. And he was an awesome guy who even babysat my niece quite a few times. She loved him, and they both shared a love for Lord of the Rings. He helped fix a lot of problems with my car, as I'm dumb and full of stupid. Sadly, he went back to prison. A single tear of the bros was had. I thought you said black as a drug dealer. In rehab I met this dude covered in tattoos, had a thick unintelligible Boston accent, told the roughest grimiest stories you could imagine. So this fucking dude is like feeling up my girl in the bar, right? So I says to him, taste tap. He don't. I bring him outside and leak I am out. See you later. These types of conversations would happen while we were coloring flowers or something. Coloring happens a lot in rehab. A few days after meeting him, we're sitting watching TV and Star Wars comes in. My kid fucking loves this movie. Dude, then he starts quoting the movie. Then he starts crying, talking about how much he misses his kid. Rehab is one of those places where your perceptions of people are either spot on or the exact opposite. There is no middle ground. You either are the drug you're using, or the drug you're using is hiding you. Upvote for that last sentence. It's brilliant. I once had this big gangster looking black guy come into my work. After discussing a WoW question with a different customer, he started going off about how his paladin was the perfect PvP machine, and we got into a lengthy discussion about it. After the conversation I realized he knew more about WoW than I do. Massive biker friend of mine is a homosexual. Everything about him is butch. Doesn't conform to what we would think the gay stereotype is. I'm pretty sure that fits one of the gay stereotypes to a T. Middle school teacher told the story of the tallest, most intimidating kid he ever taught, and how one day he walked into class, stopped at the door and started making train noises, chew, 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 like a train starting its journey. He then moved his arms like the classic metal arms on the wheels and made his way to his desk using straight lines. Chew chew em. I worked for a very old partner at a very respected law firm. One day we were in a meeting and he was being kind of quiet, and I asked him what's wrong. He said he was tired cause he had been up the night before at a Lady Gaga concert by himself. Just this week a guy came into my work with Frick the World tattooed on his arm. He was a 250 lb plus man, and this tattoo covered about a 4" by 4" area on his bicep area. He called me on several occasions. Standard prison nomenclature. My dad is a big guy. He was a wrestler in his prime and still lifts like a badass. He drives a motorcycle and doesn't take crap from anyone. Recently he bought a long-haired chihuahua, you know, the ones starlets put in their purses. He carries the little guy around everywhere. My boyfriend was in the Marines for quite some time and generally lives up to the stereotypes. However, the second he hears some Cher or show tunes, look out. I was an FMF corpsman and saw some eclectic music on my Marines playlists, so they couldn't say crap about me having Aqua and Ace of Base. The worst thing, though, is as soon as one starts singing Taylor Swift or Rihanna or whatever, everyone around him is going to join. Never fails. My friend from high school who became really social and really jacked will still spend a full day with me sitting around playing Crystal Version and freak out whenever Raikou appears. Once heard a Mexican man, I should say an American man of Mexican descent, say something shockingly right-wing about Mexico-USA immigration policy. My first boyfriend was tall and muscular, captain of the football and baseball teams, second in his class, and an all-around American all-star. He worked after school as a security guard. He is absolutely obsessed with anime and regularly spends all of his excess money at conventions. Every history teacher I had in middle school and high school said horses instead of horses. Most of them were manly sports coach type guys. That couldn't have been a coincidence. Also, one time I was at the pool, one of my friends who is a straight guy said, "I can't get my hair wet. My product is water soluble." I still make fun of him for that. I have long, dark hair, a permanent scowl on my face, a long goatee, and I only ever wear metal shirts. I help old ladies up the stairs, and I call them mom. I prefer my men like that. Actually, happy cake day. My husband is the biggest badass I know. He collects knives, trains in 3 different styles of martial arts, likes to shoot stuff, and wants to eventually be in the Secret Service. We went into a furniture store a while back, and he sees a beautiful birch coffee table with some really nice details and metal inlays. He exclaims at the top of his lungs, "That wood is so cute." I haven't let him live it down since. I worked with a tattooed, kind of badass animal control officer back in the day who told me he was going to a concert one night after work. I thought surely something metal. So when he said Avril Lavigne, I kind of laughed until he looked at me with a deadly serious look. Looked down and I swear he nearly cried. Your dong. I am a black man. I don't like watermelon or Kool-Aid, but I pretend to so I will be accepted by my fellow black people. I act like I like soccer to be accepted by my fellow Mexicans. My dad's covered in tattoos, has a beard and rides a Holly. The other night I went to go let the cat outside, and he comes over, picks up the cat and goes, "No, he's silly, he doesn't know that he doesn't want to go outside. It's too cold for him. Isn't it, kitty?" My grandpa is the kind of no-nonsense old man that you imagine would scream at kids on his lawn. And he does. He rides a motorcycle and owns a lot of guns. Comes off kind of gruff, etc. Just to give you the idea. This isn't to say he's not a loving man, but he certainly prescribes to the macho man stereotype of his time. My grandparents also once had a poodle. This was my grandpa's baby. Now, that would almost be enough to fit the thread, if I hadn't also heard the following. Apparently, my grandfather once asked the groomer if she could paint the dog's toenails pink and put pink bows in her hair. TLDR. My gruff, man's man grandpa wanted pink bows put in his poodle's hair. Disclaimer. This might not be true, but I'm pretty sure it is. One of my best friends is this gymaholic, slightly overweight, football hooligan type guy, the kinda guy who you don't frick around with. A few weeks ago we were supposed to meet up, but he never showed. Naturally, I called him. I couldn't hear a word he said on the phone, due to the really loud Lady Gaga concert going on in the background. He later explained that he had been desperately trying to get tickets for the concert but only managed to get one. So he went alone. He now wears his Lady Gaga concert t-shirt with pride. Also, driving with this guy will turn into an Adele sing fest, and he takes the high notes. Not say, exactly. I used to live next door to this enormous black dude, ex-marine, in his 50s. He was also a prolific bootlegger. Stepping into his house was like stepping into a Hong Kong video store. Gold tooth, not someone you'd want to run into in a dark alley, but he was also the nicest dude I've ever met. The really weird thing to see was, he had this tiny little, fluffy rat dog. I don't know what breed, but it was smaller than your average cat and was incredibly fluffy. Every day, he'd sit down and brush his little dog's hair. Watching this giant black guy comb and baby talk to this itty bitty dog was pretty hilarious. My cousin brought along his girlfriend at a family wedding. Blonde, curvy, Barbie type girl. Turns out she was a huge geek and we talked about comics and Doctor Who all night. Sitting at a telemarketing job way back in the day, I used to sit and knit or crochet while on the phone. One day I was struggling with a particular stitch of knitting I wasn't familiar with. The very huge, very hot black college football player next to me leans over, is probably the quietest guy I've ever met, takes the needles, does the stitch, and then asks if I have a spare set of needles because he's bored. I swooned a little. Someone from our atheism once said, "I respect your point of view." I was shocked. It was an atheist replying to another atheist. Have a friend who is 6 feet 2 feet 260 pounds powerlifter that is all tatted up and drives a busted up 80s pickup. We are hanging out drinking. He gets drunk and starts quoting Fievel Mausekowitz from An American Tale to me. I could not stop laughing. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.